I did not. I did not have my voice shared.
Yes.
Okay,
brilliant.
so this first review is going really well with the silence that we had and just Tom going, hey!
Hey.
Let's try that one again.
And calling me out.
Yeah.
Calling me out.
So, welcome everybody to the first Nerdmigos reviews. This is a series of consumers just reviewing games that we play, afford, like, dislike, whatever the case may be. We have today with us Crash, Wibblesniff, and myself, Doragon. So,
Hello.
I'm currently sat atop Avengers Tower, wearing a very classic suit that people will see, and I've completed the game. Both of you have completed the game, have you not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have done so. I'm currently atop the Empire State, posing with an ace selfie with my dark spider suit, which is my favourite suit so far. We'll get on to suits in a bit. So I'm gonna. Where do we start? Should we start with the story, or should we go for the mechanics?
I think story's probably got to come first and foremost. It's a single player game. Everybody plays a single player for the story. So for me, that's always going to be the most important aspect of a single player game, the story itself.
Yeah. If it doesn't, as I found playing new release games, if there's single player, if there's no multiplayer, then I'm hanging on the story, or else I'd lose interest and won't finish the game within the week.
Yeah. So.
Which is why I'm graceful and grateful rather that Sony, that Insomniac have managed to do this and have, in my opinion, pulled off one hell of a game.
Yes, I mean, for me, the story carries it. The story is everything with this one. If it weren't for the brilliant writers, the effort that was put in, I don't think we'd have the story, the game, the experience that everybody's raving so hard about. I mean, for those who haven't finished it yet, this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so
yeah,
feel free to tune out now if you haven't yet finished the game and come back afterwards. But from my perspective, the way they've done the characterization is what makes it. I was speaking about it with Wibblesniff a little bit, and we just said, like, certain things, like Dr. Octopus, for example, you end up caring about that character.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, especially as it came towards the end.
Yeah, he's just, the way, you know what's going to happen. Like, Dr. Octavius always becomes Dr. Octopus, doesn't matter whether it's 616, the Ultimate Universe, whatever the case may be. He's always going to become Dr. Octopus.
That name becomes synonymous with that particular character.
Exactly. It's just the manner in which it happens that
when you have
change.
Spider-Mans that pass along for Miles Morales and Peter Parker, and there's names that, you know, that follow the same with the suit. When it comes to Dr. Octopus, though, you just know what you're going to get. But I never expected him to be the way he was portrayed.
You and I spoke about it, didn't we, Wibblesniff? It was the fact that they made you love this character prior to turning him into this enemy.
Gotta be honest, those rocket backpacks are pretty awesome.
Just a brilliant realization of him, I think. It was beautiful in many ways, because it was a case of, as you guys have said, Otto Octavius is Doc Ock, and you know it's coming at some point. But it's just the way they do it. They don't just go, here's Doc Ock, there he is, haha. It's just literally a case of, they make you care about the actual character Otto, the circumstances of the story, his role model type figure to Peter Parker, and then just leading up to obviously defining fight with Doc Ock. It just makes you are rooting for Peter. It's like, you get Peter wants to save him, and he tries to save him, and you're rooting for Peter to save him, even though you know it probably isn't going to happen. It was just beautiful how they did it.
Yeah. The way they introduced him as well, the sort of lab partner that had a crippling disease that had to force him to make the arms that not only was he working on to help that poor
the veteran, wasn't it?
The veteran, yeah, the poor veteran that had lost an arm during fighting for his country, but also that he had a crippling disease that was cancelling out his motor memory through his muscles. And it was so subtle as well. It wasn't like, oh, here he is ill. It was like little things when he couldn't take the headpiece off, so Peter had to help him. He couldn't pick up his coffee, so Peter had to help him.
Yeah. Like, the way they did it, all these subtle nods, but the subtle nods of him becoming Doc Ock as well. I mean, if you go back and look at the little tidbits around the lab,
Sable
prior
reinforcements?
to him
Why don't I have
actually
reinforcements?
taking on the mantle of the Octopus.
Yeah.
Rhino's arm is
subtle
in there,
hints.
the raft schematics and stuff, like they say all the time, oh yeah, it's just for defense contracts.
When he's
and what
done.
have you.
Security
But
project, isn't it?
yeah, he's doing it to gain access to the raft, build his Sinister Six, which, as far as I was aware from what I saw, the only person to call it Sinister Six in the game was J. Jonah Jameson. If I'm not
Sort of
mistaken.
named it as a tabloid, didn't he? Became a tabloid
Yeah.
name rather than
No, I know that's
the
how
organisation
most of the
formed by
things-
Fisk.
Yeah, I know that's how most of the things in Spider-Man happen. Jason names them, lo and behold, away they go. But
Yeah.
I still think the way they've done everything, the simple things, the little nods, the moments of clarity after the fact, it's just beautiful. Like, for example, like you've already mentioned Miles, like his story, everybody knows
Yeah.
it. The Ultimate Universe, Peter Parker dies at the hands of the Green Goblin, who isn't in this game either. And when the Green Goblin and Doc Ock are Spider-Man's two biggest enemies, his two first enemies as well, like the first two he encounters along the way in every comic, whether it's the Ultimate Universe, whether it's 616, whether it's even the Sam Raimi movies, it was Ock and it was Green Goblin. For neither of them to be present at the start of it, and for Ock to be such a mentor in Pete's life, for me, it just made everything that much better. But it's not just there that you get that characterization. The likes of I've already gone with it with J. Jonah Jameson. For me, that was a brilliant little Easter egg.
No longer
in this
works at the
culture.
Bugle. Has his own torch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's straight out of the comics. Straight out of the comics. He does that himself.
Yuri, looks like some people were protesting the
where
Sable
I'm at
Gang,
in the
sort
and
of
the agents responded by locking them
Yeah.
Ad
up.
campaign
Great
for
way to win hearts
it's
and
like his own
minds.
little free
Did you
hate
get them out?
speak of
It'll take some
Spider-Man in his own little
persuasion,
podcast.
but I'm a pretty
Yeah,
persuasive
yeah,
guy.
it's superb. The fact that the Bugle wouldn't settle for that, the fact that his staff wouldn't settle for that he was ousted from what he already knew, sort of thing, and the boss that he was. He could no longer print the lies because people wouldn't accept them, and I thought that was amazing.
I also, with regards to the Bugle and stuff like that, I actually liked it's in one of the it's in one of the backpacks, I believe. It explains why Peter no longer works at Bugle as well.
Yes,
That's really good.
They are
Basically,
brilliant little things.
yeah.
It's all those nods to me through the story. They help with the storytelling, but they allow a measure of freedom and individuality that's not been present in the Spider-Man medium previously. When he's been on screen, it's always been, oh, he's got to be mopey, he's got to be this, he's got to be that. And it feels like Marvel executives have been getting their teeth stuck in, oh, you've got to do this, he's got to be in high school. I mean, we've had 3 origin stories in the space of 12 years in the movies. I think the smartest thing they could do with this was come in and have an adult Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
Yeah. There was no need for people to... There was no need for even a flashback in this game to say, Pete got bit by a spider. The way they did that nod is the mission where you sneak around Osborn's apartment and you find that lab. And in that lab, she knocks over the vivarium with the spider in it. And then that's how we get Miles Morales.
You've got Red 42 there, which is straight from the comics. But it means that you've also got the possibility, I mean, how many spiders were there in there? They could open this up and you get your Spider-Woman, You get your Silk, your
Gwen.
Yeah, Spider-Gwen, like, even Gwen wasn't mentioned in this at any point, and they've played the characters and the possibilities for the future absolutely superb. I mean, they were speaking the other day on a podcast about a Marvel gaming universe, the MGU, and the logistics of it with Sony owning Spider-Man, but everything else would probably end up being multi-platform, would be an absolute nightmare. But at the same time, how well this has gone, how well it's been received, I think it opens the doors for such a thing. But they need to get that characterization absolutely bottom.
I don't think this will stay purely only on PlayStation. Just due to its massive success, I don't think it will. Which is great, but it's a shame at the same time because it's another. Not to jump into the Microsoft versus Sony war of consoles, but it's a nice little thing for Sony to hold, like The Last of Us and the Uncharted series and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but they did say that Crash Bandicoot was only going to be for PlayStation 4, and that's now gone to Xbox as well.
And the Switch, yeah, it's not on the Switch.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this game has such the capacity that it doesn't need to be tied down.
I mean, I see what you're saying. You face the problems of Sony owning the full rights to Spider-Man.
That's the issue with it, isn't it? It's not a case of Insomniac just want to do it for Sony.
No, it's Sony.
Spider-Man, so Sony say, that's our property, it's only going to the PlayStation.
Yeah.
That's the issue that you've got with it moving over multi-platform, and as you say, for exclusivity and for the fanboy war, it's a great coup to have for Sony.
But could you not imagine how much fun this would be on the Switch?
Oh yeah,
like having to whip.
Yeah. It'd be great. They add motion controls and they'd add them great.
Yeah. I think it's only be a second before it goes onto VR as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the VR version does will definitely come. There will be something where you're swinging around. Because they did the Batman off VR as well.
Yeah, I mean that was a completely different game overall. But it's probably interesting that you bring Arkham up at this point because that's the other big superhero gaming series. And again, that was multi-platform. But even we were saying prior to the release of this, it's just Arkham 2.0 or Arkham with a Spidey skin sort of thing.
Yeah. Which, in essence, it is. I mean, it holds its own, but it is, in terms of the feel you get for the game, in terms of the way the story's laid out. I mean, look, gratefully with this, well, apart from the City and the Night series, when it came to Asylum, it was a linear game. You had to go from point A to point B. There was no pick and choose to start the mission, but then you got that with City. Like, you could run off for a bit and go capture whoever, which I did feel like this game was lacking, because when you mentioned the Sinister Six and stuff and facing them, you had no choice but to fight them in this order.
Yeah.
Which I think would have been nice to have been able to pick and choose, like, who do I want to go after. But then combining superhero battles really brought out the feel of being Spider-Man. Because he was never, when it came with Batman, it was very much one-on-ones. He would fight the Penguin, or he would fight the Joker, or he would fight Bane. Whereas here, you're juggling. Yeah, and you're juggling so much. You just, as much as being Spider-Man would be great, being Peter Parker would be the worst thing in the world, because you're juggling not only a secret identity, but you're also juggling school, you're juggling your lab projects, you're juggling your relationship with MJ, Aunt May, Felicia Hardy, and Gwen Stacy, whatever universe we go to. It's so tiring, so he needs to fight those bosses as quick as he can.
I mean, the reason I then stuck on the Arkham thing is mechanics. We've been through the story. The story is absolutely superb. It's incredibly brave, in my opinion. It does things even the comic executives are scared of doing. Stuff that should have probably been done in 2006. This game's done it. and it's superb to see. But we then move on to the mechanics, the other sort of major driving force behind any game. And I love them.
How does it feel? Does it play right?
Yeah, I absolutely love them. They nailed web-slinging. Web-slinging is probably one of the hardest mechanics to get into a game because it would only ever exist in a Spider-Man game.
Nothing like a little healthy competition to maintain a
So
positive
to
work
nail
environment.
that is incredibly impressive, but they seem to nail, to me anyway, the other stuff. Like, the combat is nuanced in ways that Arkham was, ways that Arkham wasn't. Your gadgets are on the wheel, you don't have to select them from a menu or anything. Your combat, while simplistic, is, as you unlock more skills, more abilities, it's got other levels to it. Now I know you weren't feeling this way, Abe, but I thought you thought it was a bit too simple.
In Arkham, now the comparison that you get with Arkham is yes, it's a big closed combo. It's you move seamlessly from one mob to another, and then mix it in with gadgets. Now, in Arkham, I use the gadgets. I use them a lot because obviously it was part of a training to get. So the more you use them, and the better you get with them, the more you use them. It just becomes more natural. Whereas in Spider-Man, I found myself very rarely using the gadgets at all. I used the Spider on the last boss, that was it. I used nothing else. It doesn't... The game
feel like a necessity.
Yeah, it doesn't entice me to use them. It doesn't make me use them. So they fall by the wayside, and that's one of the big criticisms I've got with the combat, as well as, yes, Arkham's had 4 games to nail that. And looking back at Asylum, when you look at just Asylum on its own, I'd say the combat in Asylum and Spider-Man are very similar. They're not as smooth, but I just think that was a really opportunity. I'd like to press triangle to block and go to dodge. I don't like pressing circle.
Did you find it becoming weirdly instinctive because of how close the games are, that when you're in combat you were pressing triangle and all of a sudden you were getting smacked in the head with a bat?
Yeah. It was jarring up until that second act. And then now, when I said to Doragon, when I went to Destiny 2 after completing and getting on Spider-Man, I was pressing circles to try and dodge. So you do get used to it, but what I would say is don't, I mean, you did yourself, you actually went to, you were playing Arkham just before Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was going through City,
so
I
could feel your pain when you were like,
that was probably the worst thing you could have done,
dodging. Yeah.
So I should have had a break from the combat, found something completely different, and then I was in Arkham City doing the Return to Arkham series, and I thought, I'm getting ready for Spider-Man, gonna get all my combos down, and it was like, everything but backwards. There was no way of there's no adjustment period between the two. But it's weird, like, after you've played through all 3 acts, and you've not even just having to get the Platinum Trophy, when you've pumped in the 20 to 30 hours of playing this game, it becomes second nature, everything. Like, in the whole time we've been talking for however long it's been, I've just been swinging, and I've not had to cut a sentence short or whatever to go, oh crap, I'm supposed to press that. It's just been nice and fluid, and it's been good.
The web swinging, they've absolutely nailed.
Web swinging has not been this good since Spider-Man 2, right?
No.
And that's where the revolution started, was in Spider-Man 2. Because you needed buildings, you needed something to be there.
Yeah.
You couldn't just off the sky.
If you actually look, I know this is probably been covered by all the major games or whatever. If you actually look at where them webs go, if there isn't a building or something that web can go onto, it doesn't fire the web, it does not swing. All of those webs.
Getting out to the Empire, not the Empire State, but the Statue of Liberty means it takes you over half an hour because you're jump swimming the entire way.
I hate that Sable's violating constitutional rights, but right now, I'll settle for keeping innocent people out of lockup. Thanks.
It's very simple, it makes sense, but it's revolutionary because we haven't seen it. It's like in other games that he's probably just shot up into the sky and we don't know if it's connecting or not. But this, you can actually see it if you pause the
Spider-Man,
game
good news.
while you're swinging.
The mayor finally cracked the whip on Sable International. No more locking up New Yorkers without due process of law.
The web swing.
Guess they figured out.
I cannot fault it at all.
It has.
Disaster.
Not noticing it more now because we're talking about it, but it has a torque. Like when it goes, it's limp, and then you feel it, and you can actually feel it in the controller as well. That it whips and it comes torque, so it can carry his weight and gives you the pendulum in order to swing. It's just
let him come. I'll be ready.
Whoever the design team behind the web swinging have as simple as something that sounds so simple, they've put so much effort into and have nailed it completely.
It's the most important thing with someone like Spider-Man, though. Like with Batman, like anybody coming from the comics, anybody coming from the movies, the big thing you've got to be able to do is glide. That is a massive Batman trait. If you don't get that right, if you don't get the mechanics of that side of things right, which they did in Arkham, but if they didn't, that would have ruined the entire game. If you look at the previous Spider-Man game to come out for PS4, I believe it was The Amazing Spider-Man 2 to tie into the last movie. And everything about that felt clunky. Right? It's one of those games that probably shouldn't have been made just because it was a tie-in.
Yeah, it was made because the movie was up.
Yeah, exactly. And the difference between that and this is unequivocal. And you just feel so good swinging. I mean, I know every single person out there has said this. Oh, I want to feel like Spider-Man. And web swinging is the biggest way to do it. That is how you feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree.
Swing on a web. And they've nailed that absolutely perfectly. They've nailed the character of Peter Parker as well.
Yeah, the characterization of everyone in this has been phenomenal. They've been such strong, well driven as well. Like I was reading because thanks to you, Doragon, reading more comics. The Venom I'm reading at the moment, the Venom 2011. The writer behind it writes it like a script, like a playwright. Like every character has an objective to do this and to do that, and that's exactly how this game's been written. The characters just have everything going for them, and they're portrayed perfectly because they all have something they want to gain out of this.
Yeah, so you've got your characterization, you've got your mechanics. I mean, mechanically, I think the boss battles were a tad lacking, personally.
I agree.
They were up until the third act. They are still essentially the same kind of mechanic, but as Crash said, it's all regarding that third act with the six. As soon as the six, yes, you fight two at a time.
I'm your parole officer. You're doing it wrong.
Whatever it was. But mechanically, they're great. Like the Scorpion and Rhino fight, for example. You fight them created in the shape of a dockyard.
Yeah.
Very simple mechanics, but a really fun fight, and I enjoyed it just because of how those characters have been realised.
I think it's because the game actually challenges you to fight them as well, because you have to think about two enemies at the same time, each with different abilities and each with different ways of stopping them. Like the only way you can put a stop to the Rhino in his tracks was to drop something on him, and then you've also got the Scorpion shooting at you.
Just a weapon.
Probably actually found that boss battle the hardest.
Yeah. Doc Ock had me on the ropes a couple of times.
Yeah.
But then that became more a battle of emotion than a battle of mechanics.
Yeah, the part that I had, the only real struggle I had was Doc Ock, and that was purely because of the transition to Phase 2. Phase 1 was absolutely fine, it was just bog standard, just web him up, press fire, hit him, which is, fine, never mind. It was the transition into when he decided to go up into the sky and then he went to the floor. I just didn't expect it, and it just caught me off guard. As soon as I realised what I had to do, he was pretty straightforward. Yeah, it sounds like I'm thinking the game's easy, but it definitely isn't. Not on the hardest setting. It was a right.
It was like a crazy modern western.
One of my friends.
Lawmen pinned down in an urban canyon.
Easy. The friend that completed it easy says he wished he went up higher. The guy on.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Spider.
it's enough for me. He isn't a big gaming fan, but I love hard games, so he said that was the enough challenge for it. He died quite a few times on it. So it is challenging, but as say, it's with all of these type of games, same as Arkham. As soon as you get past a level and have a new skill, it kind of opens up and makes it easy. But the boss fights for me, the first 2 acts, really lackluster. They're pretty much the same.
Remember that steam pipe explosion when we were kids?
Up until the
that's what
6th
Mom
one,
built
then
this
it was
station to
kind of,
prevent.
why did you
It
not do
monitors
this
the pressure in the
previously?
pipes and
And then,
pinpoints trouble
as you
spots.
guys have touched on,
There's a dangerous pressure buildup happening
City
now.
especially, which
I've got to
is
do something
pretty
about
much
it
the magnum
fast.
opus for it. It's just
Oscorp
perfect.
satellites take
Arkham
seismic
City
images of what's
it
under the
has
streets.
much more to do in the city.
If I hit the ground hard enough in the right spots,
Yeah.
they can show me the high pressure
I wish,
points.
when
Pressure
you
like
fought
this
Mr.
usually means
Freeze
clogged
and
release
Bane,
valves.
you get
Once
none
I
of that,
find them,
even
I
smaller
should be able to
bosses,
jar
you
the
get none
clogs
of that
loose with
Spider-Man
another
versus
ground
Shane.
pound.
All we got was
Got my
Shocker,
lenses
was
tuned to the
really,
research station.
and Tombstone.
High pressure will show up
Yeah,
red,
Tombstone
blue
even-
is blue. Okay,
Even the
time to
Tombstone
move.
fight in it. Oh, and Taskmaster, I guess, but
I've gotta drop
Taskmaster
onto
was,
the street hard to
was
generate
possibly the
enough
biggest
force.
challenge, because they nailed him as they nail him in the comics, that he learns, that he monitors you and he learns your skill set and he learns how to fight like you and how to repel your attacks. You have to change the whole way you play the game. But I agree that there's so many good,
Found a trouble spot.
I say like ranking them, but C-list villains in the Spider-Man universe that could have just been thrown, well not thrown in, but just placed in to be just to give you something else to do after you've finished.
Yeah. I mean, I like this a lot.
That's not the only danger zone. I need to locate the other pressure
it's
points.
really
Better hit the ground
good
somewhere else to get a
foundation
reading.
to build. And
Yeah.
then
I don't
what
have much
they've done is
time.
they've taken the Arkham City
There's the
model,
spot.
it's open world, do what you want, but still got the foundations of Asylum, where yes, it's our first game of kind of treading water, but here's a big city. So the possibility for the Spider-Man game and Insomniac to make their version of Arkham City with all the stuff inside it is just mind-blowing. I'm dead excited for that.
I hope
We're not
that's
out of
the
the
route they
woods
go
yet.
down, that they expand it further. Keep it in Queens, keep it in New
Gotta
York,
hurry.
Manhattan, but properly expand.
Just to do Arkham Knight and bring
You okay?
Well, he has
Spider-Mobile.
had a tank before, hasn't he? No, he had a buggy that can drive up walls.
Yeah, but he doesn't need that though. And Arkham Knight didn't need a GTA 5 thing.
It always helps to take the pressure off.
But yeah,
Wish
this
it was that easy for life in general.
mechanically, I love it.
Harry's station prevented a major explosion.
Fighting's a little bit
Can't justify
awkward,
closing
but
it down
again,
now.
It's awkward in Asylum.
Not a bad
When
day's
you
work.
play Asylum, you think, oh yeah, I missed this from City, I missed this. And we'll say that from Spider-Man 2.
Nailed it.
With
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, it'll be better than this. And then they will probably do remasters, and then when we go back to the remasters, we'll be like, how did we cope without this from number 2? And
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's the best thing that I can say about it. It's a really, really good foundation, and it's a really good exclusive.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really, really good game. I said it to a friend yesterday, actually, just to grade it dead quick. He goes to me, so what do you think of Spider-Man? Now I've done it. I've gone combat for me to 6. It needs improvement. It just needs it. I need a reason to use my gadgets, and I never had one. The story's a 10. Everything else about the game's around about an 8.5. To me, it lands at a good solid 8.5 for starting the franchise. It's perfect, and I don't think it could have got better to start.
Which is similar to what it's got on Metacritic. You look at everybody who's reviewed it, saying similar things. They're saying that this is a great foundation, it is a great game in and of itself, the story is stupendous, but there's a few things that need more work, and I imagine if we do get a Spider-Man 2, we're going to see those improvements. We're going to see Insomniac push the boss battles that bit further. We're going to see Sony give them the time to make the game that they want to make, all that sort of stuff. And I think moving forward, we're going to have probably the best superhero game we've ever seen come from this particular series, if Insomniac stick doing it, of course.
Yeah, I think they'd be foolish to let the licensing go away from Insomniac. Considering the games these guys have made, I mean, they made Ratchet and Clank, for God's sake. They're the only other game that has been sort of long enough that isn't been a Telltale game or a Sherlock Holmes game where you get trophies for playing it linear anyway. Insomniac is the only other game that I've platinumed, which was the remake of Ratchet and Clank, which they nailed as well. I think they'd be foolish to give another game developer their baby, in essence.
I mean, it might not be their decision, because they worked on Sunset Overdrive before Spider-Man, and that was an Xbox exclusive. So they're going to work on who gives them the money, who gives them the IP to work with. And I just hope Sony have seen the success of this. I mean, it's the fastest selling game in the UK in 2018. It's not far behind the likes of Uncharted 4 from its launch in 2016. So the momentum is definitely there. And I do hope that we get a second one, but I hope they work on the story. There's so much at the end of this, so much that can be moved forward and done with the story in the second one.
Well, so we're getting all excited about making a second one, and we've got 3 pieces of DLC to come. We get one next month.
Exactly.
We get the Black Cat, which I can't wait. Get to see my baby girl Felicia Hardy rocking it.
Some fresh samples.
It's gonna be. That's what I'm more interested for, because that's what's gonna set it up. The DLC will set up the future. Which, unfortunately, some games when they come to their DLC, they don't. They just give it just a little extension, and then they take a complete 180 in direction of game for the sequel, instead of having a nice, neat follow-on.
Well, look at Destiny 2, for example. They had this wonderful game at the end of D1, and then vanilla D2 was just meh. It was fun, but
it was out of nowhere though. It was just completely out of nowhere. There was no sort of easy segue into it. There was like, oh, by the way, here's the Cabal, and they're messing you up, and they're trying to take you down. It was like all these years that happened. Like you start the game coming back from a mission, and like, well, what mission was it? What was I doing before all this happened? So I really hope they don't do that with this. I hope.
That's it.
I really want Fist to come back. There's no way he's staying in prison. There's no way.
Looks like we have 3 guilty parties.
Fist has never stayed in prison in the normal comics.
Taking pictures.
The sort of standard
Just like
Marvel
the old Bugle
universe.
days. Life was
However,
so much simpler back then.
In the Ultimate Universe, Fisk was killed. Black Cat threw him out of a window. So,
well, yeah, and then Black Cat becomes, as it is in the comics I'm reading at the moment, Black Cat is now the Kingpin.
Essentially, that's one thing, but there's so many ways they can take this.
I'm getting like ideas of the way they could take it, because this one that they've got coming up, that's about Black Cat. The second DLC that's been named is Turf War.
Well, she's going after crime families. You can see that with everything that you've picked up. So that is straight out of this year's Venom Inc. storyline. And that's another thing I've absolutely adored about this game.
All set.
The little tidbits, the side information.
Courtesy of your Earth-friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
So for me, being a massive comic nerd, there's been so much, like the suits, you guys asking me what the Mark II and Mark III were for, where they came from. Aid and I had a massive discussion about the Mark IV spider suits.
Parker Industries.
Yeah, about Parker Industries, where it came from, how you got to that point, how even Octavius in the comics was involved with that one. So, for a massive comic nerd, there's all these Easter eggs, all these little tidbits. I've read the standard version, I've read the ultimate version, I've read everything there is to do with Spider-Man, watched everything there is to do with Spider-Man, and I have to say, when it comes to screen stuff, 94 has been the magic number for me, that 1994 series. But I think this is probably better
than the 94 animated series.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's yeah. I'm not going to agree. I'm not going to disagree. I think it's one hell of a torch for it to. I mean, it's difficult for me to voice such an opinion on these kind of things when it comes to the fact that I'm a pure DC kind of guy in terms of story and the nitty gritty and all that kind of stuff. But the 94 is childhood, is what it is in terms of how big of an influence it is in just pop culture in any general. Like, everyone knows the intro, regardless. You play that first opening note, it's there. You just know what it is. So to say that you think the game series can go bigger than the 94 is one hell of a candle for it to live up to.
Really wish they
Is that
tell our
what you're
agents to
saying?
chill
Are
already.
you saying that it can be bigger, or are you saying the story arc and the universe has potential to be better?
I am saying that. The story arc, the universe, it definitely has that potential to be much bigger, much better than the 94. It has the potential to be on par with the likes of the run-up to Civil War. Like, that is the best Spider-Man has ever been for most people. I personally disagree.
We're talking outside the MCU, right?
Yeah, back in the comics. For most people,
We're talking
that's
the proper
best
Civil
he's
War,
ever
not
been.
that nonsense.
But this has the potential to be as good, if not better, than that. And considering he's moving into the comics this winter as well, this version of Spider-Man is becoming Marvel canon. The stories they can make and take with this is astronomical. They can do anything, really. It's brilliant.
So, with regards to that, here's a question for you, because obviously you are the comic book master in regards to Spider-Man for us. Yes, this Spider-Man is becoming canon, and all three of us have said this Peter Parker, this Spider-Man, story and characterization is brilliant. He's an absolutely brilliant Spider-Man. Will them putting him into canon and creating stories and comics for him, will that help will it help the game franchise, or will it hinder it because then they've got constraints from the comic?
It depends how they deal with continuity more than anything else.
Yeah.
What you're going to have is a situation where you've got a character who started off in a game. You're then going to have a story told in a comic, which a lot of the people who played the game probably aren't going to read. So, how do you play that off? How do you use the continuity there? Now, the great point of it is, it shouldn't have any bearing on this particular universe, because it's the Spider-Geddon storyline, very similar to what the Spider-Verse was, where every Spider-Man in every universe is under threat. So
is that the premise of Web of Shadows?
No. So what happens? You've got this family of vampiric entities called Inheritors, and they feed off spider totems. The spider totem is whoever is the essential Spider-Man in that particular world. So with ours, it's Peter Parker. That's the 616 universe. With some places, you've got Peter Porker.
Please tell me he's a pig.
He is a pig. He's a pig. And it's freaking
That is the
hilarious.
greatest bit of right. Insomniac Games, get on it for the next Spider-Man 2. I want a Peter Porker skin. That's what I want.
You've got Spider-Gwen, because Spider-Gwen isn't from the core 616 reality. So Spider-Verse brought all of these characters together and had them duke it out against these Inheritors. They left them in a derelict universe which was destroyed by nuclear war, and it was just radiation central. But they're coming back, so it's going to need all of these Spider people again, and to have another experienced Spider-Man on the team, because most of the other Spiders are teenagers, the likes of Miles, because Miles wasn't initially part of standard Marvel canon. He was part of the Ultimate Universe, which got eradicated in 2011, I want to say. It got destroyed by our universe colliding with it. But they've got all these different characters across different universes. This Spider-Man we're playing as now is just another Spider from another universe, but he's another one who's experienced. He's not a teenager like the others. He's got 8 years of fighting crime under his belt. Okay, he hasn't had the sort of heartache and pain of dealing with Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus that the core 616 Spider-Man has, but he's still going to be a massive asset to that fight against the Inheritors. But they don't need to bring that into the next game. They can have it as a throwaway quip, something that he mentions early on. Oh yeah, that time when it was in that other universe or something. It doesn't need to affect how the
Easter
story
eggs here and there
of the next game goes. So him becoming canon in the comics doesn't need to impact the great work that Insomniac has done with this story and can continue to do with future stories.
There you go, Aid. That was just one question.
It's obviously because
of course.
As soon as they make a franchise and something, you know it kind of just goes
on my
down.
watch.
And then with them obviously making canon, they're more constrained for Insomniac.
We need to have a chat about your definition of security.
I think I'm sure I read that I saw it with Insomniac, like I said, Marvel did the story on this as well.
Yes, I shouted it at you guys in our group chat the other day. I just shouted Dan Slott. He was, for the last 10 years, up until February this year, he was the Spider-Man writer, the Spider-Man writer. He was the main guy. Right. So, to have him involved in the story was huge. And it shows with the story that it's told. It's got massive takes from the work that he's done with Spider-Man. So, the fact that he's working as a scientist in a lab helping people, that is straight out of the Dan Slott story from Big Time, which is where most of these advanced suits come from. The likes of Mark II, Mark III, the stealth suit. It's where they all come from. They come from that Big Time storyline.
What's happening
the
to this
fact
city?
that you've got Miles there, that's straight out of the Ultimate storyline. You've also got the Sinister Six coming in from the 70s. Dan Slott and Marvel being involved in the story have been a massive help, and it shows in the way the game not so much plays, but tells its way. That they want to honour what the comic people know, but they also need to let you know that this is its own thing. So
yeah, they don't want to restrict you to the universe.
Exactly. You'll see the hints, you'll see all this, but you don't need to be an absolute boffin. You can enjoy it simply for itself. So we've gone through story a lot.
Basic knowledge of not even a basic knowledge, just knowing. Not even that, because it gets all explained to it anyway. But there's certain Easter eggs and stuff that you'll get little quips for. Like Easter eggs in this have been everywhere. You can't escape them. Like just for a little-known spider buff like me, there's been so much that's gone on that's been like, oh my god. The fact that we've had Norman Osborn, but not had the Green Goblin, but still that essence of you're an evil son of a gun, like you're a really bad man.
Yeah.
Without him actually even need to be.
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken a lot about the story, we've spoken about the characters, the future of it, the mechanics. We've spoken quite a bit about the Easter eggs and such now. We should probably move on to talking about what we feel overall and looking towards sort of winding this up, because we have been waffling for a little bit here. If you're just tuning in, this is Waffle Central.
It's a live review, isn't it? It's what you expecting. You start one conversation and then it follows on because you just get, you know.
We haven't wrote stuff down. We've just gone in for a conversation of, as you say, it's a conversation. 3 gamers that have completed a game and all interested in Spider-Man. It's not hijacked the transit
exactly. Which I feel is the best kind of review you can get, because it's just organic. There's no need to have people say, can this be said, can that be said, oh no, because this might upset people. It's just pure honesty.
If we move it towards what they're going to want, surmising our thoughts and what have you. Ow. Sorry, I've just got absolutely battered in this crime. For me, I've loved it. Like we've said, I'm the massive Spidey buff. I've loved Spider-Man as long as I can think. I've read so much, watched so much, everything he's ever done. Like, I've been there. I've been part of it, sort of thing. I've loved it. Every second of the game has been a joy for me, from the web swinging to the combat. I've enjoyed the combat. completely contrary to how you guys have felt with watching it. And it's been an absolute pleasure. It's not been the standout, most stellar game of all time. It's not the greatest thing that's ever been made. Like, this year alone, you've got other Sony third parties like God of War, which have been so much better overall. So you can see it's got ways to go, but like we've said a few times, the foundation that we have with this is absolutely fantastic, and I think the world that we're going to end up building and having from it is going to be one that we should be talking about for years to come. It is just that much fun, that well written, that well presented. The story is that strong. So I think we've got the makings of something absolutely special.
So the Doragon score out of 5?
Oh, out of 5?
Hostages
Probably go for 4.5, because it's nearly, but not quite.
So yeah, I there's a lot of stuff there you said that I agree with. There's things that I too think can be majorly improved. Oh, sorry, I just activated the rock out at the top of a skyscraper and nearly died. That's a bit scary. Yeah, when it comes to the combat, I feel it's clunky, but as we touched on as well, saying it's the first one in the series, hopefully, even if they do a 4-game series and maybe one spin-off that Warner Brothers got their hands on, for example, like with Batman, and they develop the character and push him forward and put him up against things, because Arkham Asylum and City and Knight, they all follow. That's what made them so great. There was years passed, don't get me wrong, years happened, but they followed each other. So I think if Insomniac continue to do that with Spider-Man, and we're going to get one hell of a series, as you say, that we'll talk about for years to come, and probably won't ever stop playing. I mean, I've platinumed this. There's literally nothing left for me to do, but thanks to photo mode, you get to look epic every second of the time you play this game. So I agree with the 4. I think 4 out of 5, solid 4 to 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
your thoughts, Wibble?
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same as Crash. I've got nothing to do in the game, so it's 100% done. But you know what? I've just sat here for this, however long it's been, and I've just been web swinging. Because it's brilliant. As Doragon said, is it the best game of the year? No. Will it be the best game of the year at the end of the year? No. Is God of War better as a first party? Yes. Something that we haven't touched on, mainly because I think I'm the only one with the capability of it, the HDR. I'm not much for all this 4K stuff. Yes, I've got all the 4K tell, yeah, but all this kind of stuff. I've got pro blah blah blah, but everyone's like, the HDR, it's been perfectly implemented. It is, it's very nice. Is it the best use of HDR in a PlayStation exclusive? No. That's still Horizon Zero Dawn, closely followed by God of War. Is this still... I mean, now, I'm web swinging into the sun, over it, I think it's dusk, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. But yeah,
it's really funny you should say that, because I'm doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it is. It's easily a 4 out of 5. The story carries it immensely. If you want a good a good old-fashioned single-player, story-driven game, you can't get much better than this.
All units, 1043, police vehicle in street arrest. Reported location is Nolito.
That's just me being me. That's just my style of play. The game itself, I'd recommend anyone buy it. It's 4 out of 5.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So there you go, across the board, 4 out of 5. Definitely a game you should pick up if you're thinking about it. If you're not, and it comes down in price, want to have a punt on further down the line, there is, as Crash has said a couple of times, 3 DLCs coming down the line. Hopefully they hold just as much fun and entertainment as the main story has, as the main game has. But in the meantime, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for listening to our ramblings and thoughts. It's not the last time we will be doing this. We will be back in the future reviewing other games.
Definitely coming back to the DLC.
Well,
Definitely coming back to
that's
the
the
DLC in
question.
this.
I'll tell you what I think is going on.
Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Take care and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much, guys.
To get high.